Hey everyone, and welcome to the first social media workshop. I apologize for the delayed start. Had a quick studio issue that I had to address, and we're going to get a few quick things out of the way before we dive right in here. First of all, welcome aboard everyone, and again, I apologize for the delayed start, but hopefully this will be a very solid live stream. Hopefully we won't have any disruptions. I'm going to read all your comments, and let's see, we got Chris, we got Brad, bunch of people tuning in here. I'm going to get through a few things before we start. First of all, this is the first social media workshop that I've hosted. And what prompted me to do this is questions from hundreds of people. You know, everybody, all experience levels, people that don't even have a YouTube channel, people that want to start a YouTube channel, people that have a YouTube channel, but they want to further optimize their YouTube channel. So what I'm going to attempt to do within this workshop, social media workshop, is start with the basics and then build. And obviously, any questions or comments you have, just type them within the chat area. And if I can't address those during that workshop, that'll at least provide me with some notes for the upcoming workshop, so I can hopefully include those topics then. I do have a somewhat structured agenda, and we're going to get into that here in a minute. But first, I just want to say this webinar, or workshop, webinar, whatever you want to call it, this one and hopefully the next few ones, and maybe even all of them, hopefully they'll be able to remain free. I'm providing this obviously free of charge. With that being said, I encourage everyone, because I am an independent YouTuber, I encourage everyone, if you choose to do so, not required, at a minimum, please like my video, share with others, and subscribe to my channel and ring that bell icon. Now notify you whenever I post another video. If you want to take it to the next level, during the workshops, you can choose to super chat. Super chat's that little button in the chat area, and that'll enable you to support the channel. A few bucks here and there if you choose to do so. Again, completely optional, but another way you can choose to support the channel. And the third way is to support me on Patreon. You can go to patreon.com/IRICSky, or you can just expand this video's description, and I've included a link there to Patreon. But now that I've got all that out of the way, let's jump right into to episode 1 here. And one other thing before I do, if you're a social media influencer, or maybe you just want to become involved with social media, if you're looking for one-on-one social media consulting services, feel free to contact me. The best way to do it is facebook.com/IRICSky, and I'll be more than happy to provide a free quote for my social media consulting services. And the same goes for businesses. If you're part of a business or you know someone that works for a business that's looking for social media consulting services, feel free to share my information. I'll be more than happy to provide a free quote for my consulting services. So let's hop into session number 1, to workshop number 1. And before I do, let me pop up y'all's comments here from my mobile device. Brad says, working on a channel trailer of mine now and possibly recreating a new channel to try to redo better from the beginning. So speaking of the beginning, let's start here. A lot of y'all recognize, a lot of people are tuning in that may be brand new to the IRIC Skies Adventure channel, so welcome aboard. I'm going to give y'all a quick background of how this all started, how IRIC Skies Adventure channel started. In case you haven't heard the story, this is how it all started. So I went on a cruise, and this was just a cheap cruise. I'm probably one of the most haggling guys you'll ever meet, because I like to get the best deal. I don't want to spend extra money. I don't want all the shore excursion junk that just racks up the bill. I don't want to pay for drinks on a cruise ship because it just jacks it all up. So anyway, went on a cruise, took a camera, and at that point in time, it was just a cheap camera, point-and-shoot camera, probably maybe $140 camera. Nothing special, but it was a waterproof camera. It snapped still photos, it captured video, and I took that camera on the cruise and filmed a bunch of stuff, and then I wanted to share those videos with friends and family. So, video files are very large. So how was I going to share video files? And this was many years ago. This was back, I'd have to look at the video date, but I've been doing this for many years now. And it was a situation where the video files were so large, I didn't have a convenient way. I couldn't just email it. So then that's when I found YouTube, and YouTube was free. I was able to log into YouTube, and once I established the account and the account that I created, IRIX Guy is the name. It's just gibberish. I just created a gibberish name because I needed a YouTube account so that I could share that video with friends and family. Welcome aboard, Dale. Welcome aboard. So when I created the YouTube account, obviously I did not know that the YouTube business side of things existed. You know, I wish I had, but I didn't. I just uploaded a video and wanted to share it with friends and family. But that prompted an email from Google a few weeks later, and Google emailed me, and they said, "Would you like to become a YouTube partner?" And you know, normally I would not even open an email like that because I would assume that's probably a spam email. But since it came from Google, I felt that it warranted closer inspection. So I went in and opened the email. And after opening the email, I read, and it said, "You want to become a YouTube partner?" Well, you know, what is that? Wasn't even familiar with it. But at that point in time, the YouTube Partner Program was by invitation only. And basically what YouTube Partner is, it means that if you've got eligible videos and you you know your channel's eligible for monetization or whatever, that you can take these videos and monetize them. Which means that at a high level, it just means you can make money from people watching your videos. And I'm like, well, that's pretty cool. So I had that video, and y'all can pop it up. It's just it's on my channel. It's just the Carnival Elation cruise ship video, and it's you know, it was just a simple video, but that's what started it all. And you know, this is something I would never do because it's private, and I wouldn't. It's something I won't share, but I'll keep it high level and just say that, you know, I was watching the earnings and I'm like, okay, well, you know, this is a few pennies here and a few pennies there. But then I noticed, well, pennies are turning into dollars, and you know, there's an opportunity here. You know, I've always been geared for business, and when I saw that opportunity, number one, I said, well, I feel like a fool that I wasn't an early adopter of YouTube, because I had watched tons of YouTube videos. I saw these YouTubers that were, you know, super chat, woohoo! We got a super chat from Chris. He's a super fan of the Typhoon H. There you go. That is greatly appreciated, man. Yep, super chat. So anyway, I noticed that it was, you know, the earnings were stacking up, and I'm like, this is a business, and why did I not see this business opportunity sooner? You know, YouTube's been around for several years at that point, and I didn't realize it. I was doing other things. I mean, I was, you know, trading penny stocks and doing anything I could and I was good with it. I was good at that. You know, I was able to really rack up some bucks trading penny stocks, but you know, I felt like a fool that I didn't realize that the YouTube opportunity existed, because there were YouTubers that were already, I mean, the huge top-level YouTube channels that were pulling in, you know, their take-home probably $1 million or so a year. No joke. And I'm like, that is sizable cash, and it's just from YouTube videos. And the thing is that, you know, had I realized it, I could have been a really large channel now. And this channel is, you know, it's growing with everyone's support. It's growing. It's I think my video views are close to 51 million, and the subscribers are getting close to 72,000. So, you know, it's not the biggest channel, but it is growing. And I just keep kicking myself because I didn't realize the opportunity existed earlier. And I just thought it was a bunch of kids and having fun with you know, posting videos without any financial reward. So that segues us to the next piece of this first workshop, and this is just a quick overview, and we're going to get into some really, really good stuff here. So that's what got me hooked on YouTube, because I realized, well, you know, now I'm a YouTube partner, and again, at the time it was by invitation only. I'm a YouTube partner. Now all I need to do is just upgrade my production quality, upgrade my gear. You know, don't go extreme with it, but get get something better than a cheap $120 waterproof point and shoot camera. So, that's when I started upgrading gear and did everything I could to improve the quality. Now, obviously, the earnings were what enabled me to upgrade the gear and what created the business need to continue to upgrade the gear. So as the earnings, I looked at it like this is an opportunity that if I'm able to continue to trend upwards with earnings, well, it takes money to make money. So, as I started to make more, I'm like, well, now I can spend a little bit more. I can get better cameras. I can get better audio equipment. I can go to better filming locations for my YouTube videos. And, I can treat myself every now and then and do things. And one of the videos, and I need to, for the next I keep wanting to say webinar, but for the next workshop, for the next social media workshop, I want to pop all these videos up as we're going. But one of the biggest things when I realized, that that the channel was becoming significant, I needed some sort of like trophy or whatever. So and speaking of trophy, unless YouTube changes it, once you hit 100,000 subscribers, you get this silver play button, which is an actual trophy for the wall. And I'm super excited to achieve that milestone here very soon. That's my goal for 2020. Brad says, considering getting the A6400 currently to really improve my YouTube. Audio is my biggest downside. Honestly, the APS-C cameras like the 6400, they're great cameras. The only thing I would say is that, and correct me if I'm wrong, it's either the 6600 that has the new style battery. The ones that use the NP-FW50 battery, you're not going to get as good a battery life from them. And I'm saying that not to say that it's not a good camera, but you're not going to experience the amount of battery life that you can from, say, once the A7 III came out, that battery, and then the APS-C, which is I think the A6600. Look at the A7 III battery and that type of battery, and see which one of the APS-Cs has it. I think it's the A6600. And you may want to consider going with that one for that reason, for the battery, but also that one has an LCD on the back that can face forward. But I think, to your point, I think the 6400, doesn't it have the face forward LCD option as well? So, that's bang for buck, could be really good. And then you could go with I've got a lot of suggestions for microphone solutions. Whether it's typically what I do, I use the camera's audio for reference, and then I'll synchronize the audio within post. The exception to that rule is when I'm using a clip-on wireless lavalier mic that's feeding directly into my Sony Alpha camera. So there's several ways to tackle achieving quality audio, and audio quality is just as important, if not more important, than video quality. So when I really knew, and this is probably going to sound really stupid, but when I knew that this channel had picked up and was doing, starting to trend upwards, when I was standing on the beach and I went to, let's see here, Jonathan, welcome aboard. My budget only allows for A6400 or RX107. Definitely go with the A6400, and here's why. Number one, the lenses you get for it, you'll be able to use most likely with future Sony cameras that you may pick up. And just the interchangeable lens aspect of that is why I would go with the 6400 over the RX107. Dale says your channel has always got better and better. Well, I appreciate that. It's it's a constant work in progress, and it's been, and again, this channel, it takes. I'm gonna step back and I'm gonna give y'all this. This is the way to visualize. If you haven't started a YouTube channel, or if you're kind of in the process of doing it, or maybe you're maybe you've got one and you're wanting to further optimize it and you're just looking for suggestions. Again, we're going to start this workshop is going to start at a very grassroots level, and we're going to continue to we're going to work into more advanced topics. But something I like to do is the billboard analogy, and this one is something I came up with when I was trying to think of a way to explain YouTube, because so many people, YouTube has, to a lot of people that aren't in the know, YouTube has a kind of a, let's just say it's a stigma. Because a lot of people that don't understand the business of YouTube, they see someone on YouTube, they see them posting a bunch of videos, and maybe some of the videos are silly, maybe some of the videos are informative, just across the board kind of content, and people don't get it. A lot of people see someone posting YouTube videos and they're like, well, God, that's a lot of time, and why are they wasting so much time, this, that, and the other? They don't understand that YouTube is a business. Sure, there are people that use YouTube strictly for pleasure, and that's great if people choose to do that. I mean, I would say that it would be time better spent than playing a video game or doing something silly like that. But I would never do YouTube if it wasn't a business. I mean, I'm passionate about it. Everything I post on the channel, I'm passionate about. Oh man, Dale, towards a new workshop. Yeah, keep those super chats coming in, guys. This is great. So the billboards, and when you go through a city or you go through the country, okay, you go through a city, you've got high-end areas, you've got expensive restaurants, you've got expensive retail. You go through the country, you probably, even in the countryside, you don't have as high-end of retail, as high-end of other restaurants and stuff. So the billboards, so here's a way I like to, this is how I choose to explain YouTube. You're not filming videos, you're not editing videos. What you're doing is you're building billboards. And what I mean by that is that, a lot of people assume, and let's look at the YouTuber that may only post one video every few months, and it's just a Hollywood production. I mean, they've got all the color grading, the audio, everything is to the T perfect, and it's just like, you could watch it and you would think that you were watching something that was professionally produced. That's one style. So the equivalent of that would be a billboard in the city in a high-end retail and high-end dining area. A billboard that's going to be more expensive. Is going to cost people more to advertise on. Welcome, best channel, man. That's appreciated. So then there's the other strategy, and that's, maybe there's somebody that owns 2 billboards in a high rent part of the city, high-end retail, high-end restaurants. But then there's another person that owns 500 billboards in the countryside, and maybe part of those 500 billboards are in the low rent parts of the city, the places where you may see more fast food than you do high-end restaurants. The person that has the large quantity of low rent billboards is not able to make more than the person that only has a couple of really high rent billboards. And where I'm going with this is that the common theme that I've at least picked up on from people I've spoken with, I network with social media influencers all the time, by the way. And the common thing that I picked up is that people are they're hesitant to become heavily involved with YouTube because they feel like the fish with the big dollars for the equipment, the big dollars for marketing and this, that, and the other. But hold on one second here. Check let's see. There we go. Cool, I had to clear up a little thing. But see, that deters a lot of people that would be wired for YouTube from becoming involved with YouTube, because they're just like, I missed the boat, missed the bus. It's too late to do that. It's already saturated. I can't do anything. But the thing is, if you get into it, and this is going to segue into the next part of this first workshop, is if you decide that, you can make an impact, even though there's a lot of people that already have YouTube channels, But if you decide that you're willing to go all in and make it happen, you can. You don't. So, and then you got to come up with a name. Again, my name, IRIX Guy, was just total. It was gibberish. It was something. It was a name that I created because I had to have a user ID to create my my YouTube channel. So I was going to share that cruise ship video with friends and family. So the name doesn't matter that much. And the reason I say that the name doesn't matter that much, a lot of people think that it does. It can provide additional value because typically people will, from a marketing from a marketing perspective, a lot of people say think of a color and think of something something else, like, and these are just random words, like green horseshoe or blue fish or, stuff like that. Just something where people have a color and an animal or an object, or, where to, what's the word for it? Where to go. They can type that into their Google search, or they can type it into YouTube search and go right there, without any effort. IRIX Guy is kind of a weird name. Again, it's just total gibberish, and it's something that stuck because independent YouTubers are usually much more interesting to follow. Very cool. Yeah, IRIX Guy, and it is so, but it's good, it's easy to remember. But the reality is that a lot of people, especially with YouTube, and this is something that a lot of people don't realize, is that YouTube is the number 2 search engine in the world. So the number 1 search engine is Google. Well, Google owns YouTube now. So is that when people are Googling anything, typically a video is going to provide better value than plain text or photos. So if there's a video for a topic that someone's searching Google for, that's probably going to be preferred over some sort of blog article or some photos or just plain text. So that's the crazy thing about this, is that if you look at it from whatever, and I'm getting, this bandwidth again. Let's see, it's coming back. Let's see. There we go. Just having to check. So, yeah, if you've got, here's the thing, if you put a lot of thought into a channel name, don't field monitor. Let's see if I need to adjust this to 720p, because I want to do 1080p, and that's what I'm doing. Okay, now it's green again. So hopefully I'll get into it. That's adjust the setting here. Okay. Okay, now, can everyone hear me okay? I know this thing's, it's just, the bandwidth was kind of going crazy. Okay, here we go. So I'm going to get back in from my YouTube app here. Let's see, I got a comment coming through here. Sorry, I'm having to load this back up. Okay, now I've got green, so my bandwidth is high, is great right now, so that's good. Okay, so Dale says, I bought my Ninja cookers because of watching IRIX Chef and not reading Google reviews, of which there are many hundreds online. It stopped stuttering. Okay, everything stopped stuttering now. So let me see if there's... Okay, good. Good. So we're stable again. So yeah, don't put too much... Don't feel like having the absolute best channel name is imperative. The main thing is the content. And something I encourage everyone to do, keep your channel kind of open-ended. Because if you let's see, it stopped stuttering now. Good deal. So if you make things too specific, then probably what's going to happen is that you're going to hit a point to where you run out of video ideas. And there's nothing worse than that, than wanting to create videos but not having an idea of what to video. So then I added Adventure Channel, because Adventure is something that's pretty open-ended. I mean, someone can have an adventure with knowledge. They can have an adventure with travel. They can have an adventure with, pretty much anything. So with that being that anything can be an adventure. So that's, I don't want to post whatever I want to. So that would be something I would encourage you to do is, if you do put a lot of thought into your channel name, is, come up with something that's not too specific. Like if you were doing, let's say you're doing a drone channel. You could say, John Doe's Drone Channel. But if you did John Doe's Drone Channel for XYZ drone, then you're becoming too specific, because you're implying that your channel is only drone XYZ, but what about all the other drones that are out there? You don't want to be too specific. In the beginning, I create a channel with the problem. Obviously, my channel, Irish Guys Adventure Channel, everything is free. There's no profanity. There's no questionable subject matter. It's for everyone. So I don't have any concerns there. But what one person finds humorous, another may not, and some others may feel that it's offensive. So say, for example, that you created a channel and humor was one of the primary components. So if you had your real name associated with that channel and someone's Google searching, maybe you're not a full-time YouTuber, someone's Google searching, and then they run across your channel with your name, you post that, always assume that's going to be out there forever just to be safe. Because, and in their situations, especially if one became involved with politics, there could be things that could be pulled from YouTube, they said, and twisted in a way to where it could hurt someone politically within their career. So it's going on. Well, obviously I got the video streaming, but let's see. I think it should be normalized. We got Ray, and the phone captures the audio. It's brilliant. Yeah, that is a super cool feature. And let's see. Just hit a loop. So I wonder if I need to. Okay. Okay, so you may notice a little bit less visual quality now. I've gone down to 720p 2 meg, but I think it's going to be more stable. So here we go. Yeah, so now I'm watching in my studio monitor over there. I think we should be good, but you're not going to have 1080p. So let's see. Please check. Okay, there we go. It says please check the video resolution. So now everyone should hear the audio okay. Great. So I'll make note until I get another internet service provider to just use the 720p for this, because I think it's going to be more stable. But yeah, we're talking about channel names. Whether you use an alias or you choose to use your real name, completely up to you. But I did want to point out, that if you do choose to use your real name, be aware that that stuff can always could exist forever, and anyone could see it. Afik says, seems better now. Good deal. Video quality is still good. Dell says video quality is still good. That's good. So I was doing a 4 megabit at 1080p 30, and now this is just a 2 megabit at 720p 30. So I think I'll stick with this because it's annoying when things go out completely. So yeah, so put some thought into that. And there's other people have approached me and they said, hey man, I want to start a YouTube channel, but I don't want to see myself or hear myself on video. That's kind of hard to get over for most branded. There are exceptions. In the scenario where someone's just doing tutorial content and they're narrating, you may be able to get by with just doing video screen recordings of tutorials. So in that situation, you could probably just narrate and never have to put your actual face on video. And that may be perfectly acceptable for that type of YouTube channel. But typically, when people watch TV, when people watch other YouTube channels, they want to connect. They want to see talk shows. You know who the hosts are because you can relate to them. I mean, you've seen them face on video. So, again, you don't have to be face on video, but I think it's a. I know what it is. It's these. Okay, there it goes. The next thing I want to get into is the what to film for your. The thing that I did, I started out with the cruise ship video, but I always film things that were of interest to me, and preferably something that was of interest to me, but something that would be, let's say something that's greenfield, meaning that it'll always be relevant. So travel videos are a great example of greenfield content because if places change, new hotels pop up, new restaurants open, natural disasters destroy the environment, there's still going to be historical value in watching those travel videos because people will be, look up, well, what did this place look like before X, or what did this place look like after X? There's historical value there. So when you're doing travel videos, you're capturing greenfield content, something that should hopefully always what's the word for it? That's something that I try to make top is greenfield content. Then I also like items that are probably going to continue to release newer versions. Cameras are a great example of that. Sony Alphas. I started with Sony Alphas several years ago. But when I started with them, I started with the A7R2, and now I'm using A7R4. So there's newer and better. Something that you can follow. You can become obsessed with. I've become very familiar with Sony Alpha cameras, and it's really improved the production quality on my channel. So it was an educational experience, so that provided entertainment value. But it was also something where they would continue to come out with newer versions of the camera. So I'm establishing my presence within that space that were filmed with the old and using those cameras. That's a type of content that a lot of people go after. Unboxings, obviously taking stuff out of the box. That's another space, and in that space, the unboxing space is pretty saturated. And again, not saying saturated is a deterrent, because there's still people that could create a quality unboxing channel and be able to become very successful with it. So I'm not trying to deter anyone from doing an unboxing channel, but I will say that's a pretty saturated space. Where I got lucky, and this was with the drones, I found something that initially I was hesitant to become involved with. And again, the first drone I got was the Phantom 1, and that was after the Phantom 2 had already been out for a while. So I was a late adopter of drones. But when I became involved with it, what enabled me to do it was, I had YouTube earnings, so I could afford the risk. But if I hadn't had that, I never would have picked up a drone, because I'm like, before I became familiar with drones, I'm like, this is something that flies. I've dealt with art, and I was afraid that the drone would have been another situation such as that, except a drone cost a lot more. So I was hesitant to become involved with drones, and I'm glad that I did, because that's become one of the heavy hitting pieces of subject matter on my channel. But I was hesitant at first, just for financial reasons. I'm like, this is stupid, to spend this much money for something that's going to go up in the air, potentially fly away, crash, and it's just money wasted quickly. But I assumed the risk, and I'm glad that I did, because that enabled me, even though I was kind of a late adopter for drones, I feel confident that I was one of the first, if not the first, to YouTube video drones, take them out in the field and show people how they actually perform. And that segues to the next piece. When you watch YouTube, especially if it's, let's say it's product related, you've probably seen the channels, whatever product. People post videos sometimes before a product's even released. It's immediately apparent that most all of the videos like that were professionally produced. So when someone like myself watches a video like that, I like good video quality, I like good audio quality, but when I watch something that's just so slickly produced, I can't help but to not trust the video, because when I watch the video, I'm assuming that that this is not necessarily honest information, because it's there's obviously big money behind it, or it wouldn't, the production quality wouldn't look that good. And as I become more familiar with YouTube and video editing, I've even become more familiar with how much work and how much money creating videos that are that polished, how much money that requires. So it's one of those things that with your channel, I think one of the best things to do is to just be natural. Don't put on a put on a show. Keep it entertaining, and if you want to be goofy, that's fine. I encourage everyone. I know there's channels that aren't necessarily for all age groups. I encourage everyone to keep content clean, because in the long run, clean content is likely going to be deemed more advertiser friendly. And that's important, because if you become part of YouTube as a business, you want to be sure that that your content's advertiser friendly. For example, if you had a billboard and it had nails sticking through it, and one of the posts on the billboard was about to collapse because of termites, that'd be a bad investment, because you got something that's not advertiser friendly. So for that reason, I keep everything clean for all age groups, and obviously, that's just how I like to do it. The other thing about YouTube, we're going to segue into the next piece here, is how to get started affordably. What I was just illustrating, you can go out with a camera. Smartphones now, and some of your entry or mid-tier camcorders. So for that reason, if you get a smartphone and then just get a quality microphone, you can replace the smartphone's microphone with your professional microphone in post, and still have, but you're recording externally, so you just mute the smartphone's audio after you've synchronized it, and you just leave your professional audio. And that's something we're going to do a tutorial, and I'm going to demo users. That would be applicable for any camera user, because most any camera, the internal microphone in a camera is just not going to be as good as a professional microphone. So for that reason, I always use a professional microphone. So you can start with a smartphone for video, and then maybe your first significant investment is a $100 or so microphone. And I've got a lot of suggestions, and you'll see all the mics that I use. I'm kind of Rode is my favorite microphone brand. They've been really really solid. So and then we're going to get into more advanced topics. But the next thing is what I just hit was how to get started with minimal dollar spend. Obviously, if you've already got a smartphone, that's something you're paying for anyway, probably for talking on the phone. So it's really your only true expense there would be the addition of a high quality microphone, and then you've got to get into the editing. So my suggestion, and I know Apple has a stigma associated with it, the Apple computers are overpriced. And I'll admit, I used to build Linux workstations, Linux servers, but I got on board with Apple because, as far as video editing is concerned, if you want to get into video editing on the cheap, what I would recommend is just getting the Mac Mini. That's the little small square. Doesn't have a mouse, doesn't have a keyboard, doesn't have a monitor. You just bring your own cheap USB mouse, keyboard, and monitor, and use that for your video editing, because the video editing on a Mac is the best in my opinion. I know a lot of people use Windows and they use Adobe Premiere, which is a good product. I've enjoyed Mac. I started with iMovie, which comes free, at least currently comes free with Mac OS. And as I needed more advanced features like, more refined chroma keying and, green screening and that sort of stuff, then I purchased Final Cut Pro 10, which is cool. They haven't gone to a subscription model with that yet, which means that, Final Cut Pro 10, it was a pretty expensive piece of software for a one-time purchase, but it's more than paid for itself. So, I would probably just get a cheap Mac and start with iMovie and then move up to Final Cut Pro 10 as your channel evolves and as you want to, throw even as when you want to create even more professional content. Because iMovie does have some limitations. The maximum duration of the video, for example, at least when I was using iMovie many years ago, I think it may have been, was it 5 minutes or 10 minutes? So you couldn't do a super long video clip, and that was one of the reasons I had to upgrade to Final Cut Pro 10. That, and I wanted the extra green screen. You can green screen in iMovie, but you can't polish it as much as you can with Final Cut Pro 10. Dale says, I guess the Osmo Pocket is a good start camera for YouTube. Osmo's really good if you're vlogging, face on video type segments, and actually the microphone built into the Osmo surprisingly sounds really good. I mean, it's more than usable. Brad says, got to go, IRIX. Going to check out another live show geared towards CES. Oh, CES, Consumer Electronics. Thanks for tuning in, man. I hope to see you at the next workshop. So let's see. We have covered that, and then as far as photo editing, and we're going to dive more deeply into this during future workshops. Photo editing, if you want to do it free, there's open source software. It's called the GIMP, G-I-M-P, Graphical Image Manipulation Program, I think is what that stands for. But it's just a freeware or open source photo editing software. It'll run on Mac or PC. I think it even runs on Linux. But just a really good piece of software. And we're going to talk about thumbnails within a future workshop, because thumbnails are important. If you want to make your video, because there's millions of videos on YouTube, if you want your video to stand out when people are scrolling through YouTube, thumbnails are key. Something else I want to talk about is motivators. So motivators, and I'll circle back to something that I had as a motivator, and well, there were a few motivators starting out after I realized the business opportunity. I'm like, okay, this business can scale, and how do I stay motivated? It's actually quite simple. If you're watching the numbers and your efforts day to day are enabling those numbers to increase, then obviously you're doing something right. So the biggest motivator for me was, creating my videos. And by the way, we're gonna talk about this within more in depth in future workshops. But something I always do, I carry just a smartphone, and in my case I use iPhone. So I've got the Notes app that comes on iPhone, and I've got a little note in there, and it's video to-do list. So, anytime throughout the day, I'm eating lunch or eating breakfast, or I'm driving down the road, which I would never text and drive, but I've got voice controls in my car, so I can add a reminder, and then I'll put it in my note thing. But the notes just functions as a to-do list for videos. Like today, before I went hiking, I had my note thing out, and I'm like, okay, well, what do I want to talk about during this first workshop? So I just, as I thought of talking points, I put them in my notes, and that's what I've been referencing while we've been doing our live show is just kind of a summarized, a bulleted list of talking points. I do the same for videos. As I think of something, well, that'd make a cool video, I jot it down and I add it to my to-do list. Something I don't do, and there's a couple reasons I don't do it. When I film videos, if I'm doing in-studio videos, I try to do all of those in-studio videos on the same day. And then I can edit them, and I can upload them to YouTube and just have them, if they're not time sensitive, if it's not like a current event or a new drone release or something, if it's something that can wait, then I'll just go ahead and upload it to YouTube, and then when I'm ready to release it, I can release it. There's a few advantages to doing that. Number one, if you encounter, if you're like me and you have multiple concurrent professional pursuits, you probably need to have, let's just call it a, what's the best word for it? I just call it a pot of goodness. So I've probably got 50 videos on YouTube that I haven't published. What that enables me to do is, if I've got a lot of concurrent obligations going on and I don't have time to professionally film and edit, I can just take one of those out and publish it because it's already uploaded and it's ready to publish. So that way I'm able to get content out there, keep the channel exciting, but I don't necessarily have to devote the time that day to film and edit. So, that's important. I do that with a lot of nature videos, things that, again, it's not like a product release where I want to be the first one among the first people on YouTube to video and talk about it. If it's just stuff like an interesting hike or, an interesting travel destination or something like that, those are good candidates for just uploading to YouTube and releasing as needed. The other advantage to doing that is that if you upload a video to YouTube and you don't publish it immediately, is that anytime you upload a video to YouTube, and you've probably noticed this with a lot of my videos or your videos if you publish to YouTube, if you immediately publish, the video quality immediately is not the best, because what happens after you upload, even though it's finished processing, YouTube is still processing, meaning that the maximum quality, say you filmed in 4K, it may be a few hours before that video is able to be played back in 4K. It may start out at, let's say, 540 and then go to 720, 1080, and then all of that before it's available in 4K. So if you've uploaded your videos and then you publish them later, that can be advantageous because they've already had plenty of time to process on YouTube's end. So when you do publish and make the video public, it's already finished processing, so the viewer can have the optimal viewing experience. If it's 4K video, they should be able to see it in 4K. So that's another another pro tip that I have, and that keeps things going, because there's nothing worse than not having content to post. Let's see, got a comment came in here. Let's see. I'm flipping over to my. TBG says, how do you have 75K subscribers and only 6 viewers? No clue, man. I don't know where you're... Who knows? But, yeah, and 75,000 subscribers is not a lot. And that's something I mentioned. Actually, I don't have 75,000. I think I'm right around 72,000 right now. And that's not a big number. There's a lot of larger YouTube channels. Now, I do have a lot of video views, or a significant number, close to 51 million video views. But it's so to stay motivated, again, I like to keep those videos in the pot so I can release them whenever I need to release. And I may not have something super new to plug. I shouldn't say plug, that sounds salesy. Say a new drone hasn't released for a while, or a new camera hasn't released. I want to have content that is just greenfield, travel and hiking and that sort of stuff. Stuff I can put out there that provides entertainment value, but isn't necessarily in the now. So that's how I stay. That helps me to stay motivated, because I know that every day that I've got content I can publish, regardless of how crazy a day is. I've got content that I can publish. So, and the other thing to help to stay motivated is set milestones. And there's a few things that you can choose to do for as milestones, and we're going to go into that in a little bit of depth right now. One of the big things, and one of the biggest motivators for me, is the YouTube play button. Once I hit 100,000 subscribers, unless YouTube cans it, which I hope they don't, I should get a YouTube play button, which is a physical trophy with a little silver play button that acknowledges that I've exceeded 100,000 subscribers. So that's a big motivator, because I've got that in my back pocket. And I think the next one, I think it may be 1 million. So once I hit 100,000 subscribers, the next goal will be 1 million subscribers. I think it's the gold one at 1 million. So, those are cool things to keep you motivated. The other thing is YouTube Space. If you're not familiar with YouTube Space, check out my videos. I've been to YouTube Space in New York. Once your channel hits a certain level, and if you meet all the requirements, you go to YouTube Space. I was in New York, walked into Chelsea Market in New York City, walked to the back, went to this elevator, it said YouTube on it, went into YouTube, walked up to the counter. They handed me a bag full of, I don't know, probably $30,000 worth of camera equipment. Here you go. Here's your studio. Everything was reserved. I mean, it makes you feel kind of big. It's like, I'm just this dude with a YouTube channel, and now I'm in New York, and they're letting me borrow all of this, highest end available video production equipment and studio space. And one of the funniest things was in YouTube Space. So I'm up there, and I was doing it at more of it was kind of a novelty at the time, because I'm like, this is a business reason to go to New York, and this, I can go up there, have some good food, and have some fun in the studio. But I was in YouTube Space, and then I walked into this other room, which I had reserved, and I walked in there, and I'm just Irish Guys Adventure Channel. So I walk into this green screen room, and as soon as I walk in, there's like there's about 12 people just lined up outside, and they had these like carts full of equipment. They had models, they had like a wardrobe and makeup person. I mean, it was a real deal stuff. And I asked them, I said, did y'all need to use this studio? And he said, well, did you have it reserved? I said, I do, but I said, it looks like y'all got a music video going together or something. And sure enough, they had a professional, they had an entire film crew. It was quite a production. So, they were ready for business. And I just said, look, I reserved this, but I said, I'm Irish Guys Adventure Channel. And I said, just remember me. I said, I'm gonna let you have my time in the green screen room. I said, I've got a green screen in my studio back at the home turf anyway. So I said, you go ahead and do it. And that was just kind of funny. I'll never forget that, because it's just acknowledgement that you've hit the level on YouTube to where you're in the same playing field with these big shots, with like serious production equipment, film crews, serious gear. You're right there with them, except you're just some dude that created a YouTube channel because of a cruise ship video. So I find humor in that, but I also find motivation, and it keeps me going. And that's the YouTube side of the motivation. The other side is just like personal accomplishments. I told myself, I said, once I've hit a reasonable degree of success with this channel, I want to get my first real trophy or whatever. And that was a watch I always wanted. I got a Rolex Submariner. I've always been a big James Bond fan, and what was funny, because of YouTube, when I bought this watch, this was many years ago. When I bought it, I was in the Cayman Islands. I walked into the authorized dealer, and I wasn't dripping wet. I had a dry T-shirt and and some swim trunks and flip flops on. Everything was dry. I didn't smell bad, and I wasn't too trashy looking. But I walked in the Rolex authorized dealer in the Cayman Islands, Kirk Freeport, very good place to do business, by the way. So I went in there, and they, at that point in time, that was before the Rolex shortage, so they had every type of Rolex you wanted. But I knew exactly what I wanted. I wanted the no date Submariner, because that's the classic James Bond watch. Obviously the 114060 is ceramic, so it's more current than what James Bond wore in the movie. His was aluminum bezel, but it's what I wanted. Like usual, they give you wine or champagne and beer, whatever you want, and try to encourage you to check out other things. I said, no. I said, I want the Submariner no date. So it was a quick shopping experience. I knew exactly what I wanted. They had it in stock. I got it, and the first thing I did was I'd worn my other James Bond watch, the original, that I'd gotten way before YouTube. It was just after college. I said, I'm going to get a cool watch. I got an Omega Seamaster. So I took both the Rolex and the Omega Seamaster out into the ocean. I went from Georgetown in the Cayman Islands, put both the watches on my wrist, and went out in the ocean at 7 Mile Beach and did an Omega Seamaster versus Rolex Submariner comparison video. And you can check out that video on my channel. I think it's got about 500,000 video views, but that just shows the power that YouTube has, because YouTube was the enabler. YouTube enabled me to get that other James Bond watch that I've always wanted, but it taught me that you're not just buying a watch. You're not buying a piece of jewelry. You're buying, number one, a trophy to acknowledge that you've hit that level of success at that point in time to be able to do that. But you've also learned from YouTube that you can't just buy that. You got to monetize it. So that's when immediately, right out of the authorized dealer, hit the ocean with it. And some people might think that's crazy, but I mean it's a dive watch. It's a tool watch. It's meant to be used. It's meant to be worn. And and I'm glad I did film that video, because that video has performed exceptionally well. So YouTube will encourage people to think differently. And if it was Apple, they would say think different in proper grammar. But YouTube does encourage people to think differently, and that's one of the most powerful aspects of YouTube that I've discovered. Is just now when I see things, and I'm not yes, I'm a business minded person, and business excites me, but I'm not all about the not all about the money. But what I like about YouTube is that it enables, if you're creative, if you can think creatively, YouTube can enable someone to turn almost anything into a monetizable video. So, and we're really gonna dig into this in some of the future workshops. But one of the coolest things about it was just to be able to look at something and say, okay, well, I'm going to go do this, or I'm going to go do that. When I think about things, it doesn't always have to have YouTube involved. But like, for example, let's think of a good example. So I'm going backpacking. Backpacking is a form of exercise. It's a way to relax. It's a way to hang out with friends and or family. But backpacking can also be monetized, because backpacking, you've got the equipment. Backpacking, you've got where do I go hike? What's which trail do I do? You've got all of the travel guide, tour guide type information that you can choose to create. And then you've got the gear. You've got how to get there, how to get back. Well, then you've got how do I start a campfire? You would be surprised, and I'm not insulting people, but I mean, I've grown up in the wilderness, so I'm very familiar with how to start a fire without even a fire source. But a lot of people couldn't start a fire with a log that has the little instant light fire logs or whatever. I mean, it's pathetic. So there's value that can be found all over just from that experience, from the backpacking experience. So how to start a campfire, how to pitch a tent, how to stay dry in the woods, how to use a restroom in the woods. I mean, there's so much stuff. And see, all of those topics, and it doesn't mean that someone's got to spend that entire time filming videos while they're out in the woods, but taking the time to film at least a few videos, it's well worth it, because those videos, those are just topics that people may be searching Google or YouTube for. How do I pitch a tent? Maybe somebody's planning their first backpacking trip, and they want to know, well, what do I take to eat? What's the gear what gear should I use? How do I light a fire? They search for that. they may stumble upon your channel. And that's backpacking is another example of what I would refer to as greenfield content. The technology is going to change. It's going to become lighter. It's going to become, like everything else, it's going to become more and more advanced. But backpacking as a hobby is probably always going to exist as long as there's wilderness to go in. And that's the thing, with deforestation and all of that, it could go away. But I mean, it's something that will likely continue to exist. So that's just one of many examples of a leisure activity that can also be heavily monetized. So if you think, again, back to the motivation aspect of YouTube, if you can keep yourself motivated by doing things that you enjoy, and maybe there's things that you might not would otherwise do, but because of YouTube, you're like, well, maybe I don't like strawberry ice cream, but for the sake of filming another YouTube video, maybe I'll eat strawberry ice cream and talk about it. It makes you think. Outside of if it wasn't a monetizable opportunity, you may not would do it. So that's the coolest thing I've enjoyed. And again, I don't. Thank y'all, and thanks again everybody for the super chats. And I'm on Patreon as well, and that's the other thing. If y'all want to support me on Patreon, because I really want to make these workshops a huge component of the channel. But if you can find ways to monetize experiences, especially with and again, being an older dude, I'm pushing 40, man. I'm getting this gray hair and stuff. I'm an old dude, so you deal with a younger demographic, and obviously I do a lot of research, analytics. I study heavily, and we're going to cover that within more advanced workshops. But the younger demographic nowadays, and I guess we'll call them the millennials or whatever buzzword you want to put in there. The people that are typically, if you look at people now from, let's say, 21 to, let's say 20 to 30. Let's look at that demographic. If you look at that, the bulk of those people are probably going to value experiences more than they're going to value things, than material items. So the thing about YouTube is that if you can showcase the experiences, and something I always try to do, and when I travel, I'm not staying in the fancy hotel and spending $500-$600 a night. I'm basically staying like a peasant. When I go to these places, I'm staying in the cheapest place. I go on the internet, I sort price low to high, and then I find the ones that are the lowest price that have a reasonable amount of overwhelmingly positive reviews. So I know I'm not going to be sleeping on a mat with roaches and spiders all over me. I do have standards, but it's the experiences that matter. Afik says 40 is a good number. When is your date of birth so we can wish you that special day? Experiences are important, because if you can document those on YouTube, that stuff, especially with the the millennial group viewership, the insert big hotel chain, resort chain here, they're probably going to want to go for the more off the grid type stuff, like maybe a tiny home or maybe a vacation rental or something like that. So even though you may be an older YouTuber, you can still understand how to better target the up and coming, because there are a lot of older a large chunk of the older demographic that still use the internet, that actually use the internet quite heavily for travel research. And another thing, and this is something else that a lot of people should take into consideration, again, and I'm gearing all of this towards the the business side of YouTube, because YouTube is a business. It's a business for me, and that's why I'm having this workshop. But if you think about targeting certain demographics, so a big component of my channel is Caribbean travel. And obviously in the Caribbean, you're going to run across all types of people. I mean, you're going to run across the mega rich. I mean, the people that are billionaires that have, I mean, just mega yachts. I mean, I've been out there around all these yachts. I mean, they're enormous. I mean, they're 100, 200, $300 million yachts. So you're going to have that demographic. You're also going to have the the locals, some of which are extremely wealthy, some of which are extremely poor. You're going to have the tourist, some of which are just coming in on a cruise ship, and I pack a second suitcase full of non-perishable food items to eat on the cheap. I mean, I eat good meals out, don't get me wrong. I like to have several 5-star meals throughout the course of a week, but where I'm going with this is that travel videos, so you're targeting a place where you've got a lot of people that are there for vacation, a lot of people that are mega rich, and a lot of people that are researching that. So if you think about it, it's like, well, I'm going to this location on a budget, and I'm filming it, and I'm letting people know, what you can do there, and the things to see, the places to eat, where to buy the best souvenirs, and souvenirs aren't probably applicable for a lot of people, but where to buy the best jewelry or the best watches or whatever. Packaging all that information into videos, because probably what's going to happen is that people are going to find those videos, and those people, because of where they're searching, those people are probably geographical regions that probably have a lot of people with a large percentage of people with disposable income. That's good from a marketing perspective, because then you're exposing people to your brand on YouTube, and anything that that you may be interested in on your channel, they may be like, well, for example, they come in because they're looking at a tropical travel video, but then they're like, oh, this guy does drones too, this guy does cameras, all the other things that are somewhat expensive, but because that demographic probably has a significant amount of disposable income, you're gonna capture people from one type of content, and it's going to likely cross-pollinate other content on your YouTube channel. So it is a fascinating journey if you choose to make it a fascinating journey. And the biggest thing is just getting started. And once you get yourself off of the dock, we'll say, you get out there and start playing in the YouTube waters, it can be a fun experience. And this is the again, this is just the first workshop. Just wanted to do a very high level introduction to what's to come. And what I want to do for the next workshops is, I don't want to overwhelm everyone with the amount of knowledge. So I'm gonna break them out. There's gonna be multiple workshops, and they all won't be as long as this one, by the way. I've kind of rambled on during this workshop because I'm kind of filling out what to talk about and really getting a structured plan together. But for the next workshop, once I get into the very specific task, what I'll do is I'll have a lot of tutorials. I'll be popping up. It won't just be me face on video the entire time. I'll be popping up videos. I'll be popping up screen recording so you can see hands-on how to perform these certain tasks. Anything that may help you to improve your YouTube channel, or anything that may help you to start a YouTube channel. Just any questions or comments that you have. I mean, obviously, shoot them my way. I'm on Facebook. I'm on YouTube. Those are both great ways to get me. I'm also on Instagram and Twitter, but those aren't really. I don't look at those two as really chatty platforms. I look at them as more a visual platform. But yeah, I mean, any particular questions or things that you'd like for me to explore within upcoming workshops, I'll be happy to do that. This is just the introductory workshop, workshop number 1. So just a little bit of actually a pretty long summary of how I got started and why I do YouTube and why I set up this this workshop. So I'm excited about it. Again, I plan to keep these free, and again, thanks for y'all super chats today. That's appreciated. That's what keeps me going here. This being an independent YouTube channel. So that, and you can choose to support me on Patreon if you want to. But again, the most basic form of support is simply subscribing, sharing with others, and liking my videos. So I appreciate that, and I'm going to let's see. I'm going to go ahead and wrap this one up here in a second because. Oh, and I did the whole commentator thing. I've just got gym shorts on. See, so I wore a sport coat and a dress shirt, but I just wore gym shorts just to keep it real, Well, thank y'all for tuning in and stay tuned to my channel. And by the way, this video and all my future videos will be featured on my website. So it's just irixsky.com/workshop. Hey y'all, Irix Sky here. I hope you enjoyed this workshop. If you did, please feel free to support my channel. I'm an independent YouTuber, and that helps a lot. Again, it's not required. But if you choose to do so, expand this video's description and then click the link there and you can find out how to support my channel. Also, be sure to subscribe to my channel, youtube.com/irixsky, and ring that bell icon when you do to be notified whenever I post another video. And you can also go to irixsky.com to find all the other workshop videos too. Y'all have a good day. Hey y'all, Irix Sky here.